Hi guys. So today we're going to be going over the homework assignment from yesterday, Tone Practice Passage 2. And we're just going to look at this second passage from The Stand by Stephen King. And so the two questions we're looking at, what is the tone of the passage, what words communicate that tone, and how would the meaning change if the last sentence were eliminated. So I'll just read the passage real quick. Vic and Stu looked into the car for some time, looked at each other, and then looked back in. On the passenger side was a young woman, her shift dress hiked up high on her thighs. Leaning against her was a boy or girl about 3 years old. They were both dead. Their necks had swelled up like inner tubes, and the flesh there was a purple-black color, like a bruise. The flesh was puffed up under their eyes, too. They looked, Vic later said, like those baseball players who put uh, lampblack under their eyes to cut the glare. Their eyes bulged sightlessly. The woman was holding the child's hand. Thick mucus had run from their noses and was now clotted there. Flies buzzed around them, lighting in the mucus, crawling in and out of their open mouths. Stu had been Stu had been in the war, but had never seen anything so terribly pitiful as this. His eyes were constantly drawn back to those linked hands. It's a pretty horrific description. And so, what is the overall tone of the passage? If you look at the passage, you can split it up into two parts. This first part, right up to here, right, you might say the tone is repulsive or disgusting, but this part where it describes the bodies of these two dead people sets up these last few lines. That's due, or this last line, sorry. His eyes were constantly drawn back to those linked hands. Right? Oh, yeah, and this part that it was terribly pitiful. So the overall, by the ending, the last impression that you get from this passage is that the main thing that the characters took away was they felt bad for these characters, that they were, they're dead, and there's some kind of grotesque aspects of it, but the lasting impression is that they had pity, right? They felt bad for the characters. And so when you're talking about what words communicate that tone, terribly pitiful, his eyes were constantly drawn back to those linked hands. So these groups of words communicate that tone, right? And you would have to explain, right? So he felt bad, he felt terribly pitiful at this sight. He kept looking back at those linked hands, right? Showing that he was thinking about what type of relationship this young woman and the 3-year-old boy or girl had, that they did, that it made him think about uh, what emotional mental torment they went through right before they died, right? And so it shows that sense of pity towards them. So that next question, how would the meaning change if that last sentence were eliminated? So if we remove this last sentence, right, and you just ended with, this grotesque description of the two dead bodies. Stu had been in war, but he had never seen anything so terribly pitiful as this. So that last sentence, while it does show pity, we lose the entire sense of humanity for the characters. The main focus, the lasting impression, is just how grotesque the bodies look, right, with the flies going in and around and the mucus and all that disgusting stuff. So if you eliminate the last sentence, the meaning would focus more on the death and not the death and the bodies, rather than the humanity, rather than the humanity of the dead characters. So that's it. So for the test, this is the type of questions that you'll see. So you'll usually get two questions with a passage. And so for today's assignment, you have three more passages just like this to go over. Right, that's it. Have a good weekend.